Oh, hold this on.
On Zoom.
Okay.
On
What is
Zoom.
it?
Thanks.
Right, right.
Brennan.
Nurse. Right there.
Yes.
Yeah, put nurse. Ready? We good? Good morning. Actually, good afternoon. I've made
1
my
second,
first-
Chair.
Oh, hold up.
Yep.
So the good morning is not out there. Good.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's New York City Council meeting on environmental protection. Please at this time place electronic devices on vibrate or on silent mode. Thank you, Chair. You may begin.
This again. Good afternoon. I am Jim Gennaro, Chair of the Committee on Environmental Protection. Today we'll be holding an oversight hearing on the city's water and sewage testing infrastructure. We'll also be hearing related legislation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our country lost over 1 million people, over 1.1 million people. New York City lost almost 77,000 people that we have recorded. New York City also reportedly had over 2.2 million cases. While 90.3% of New York City residents have received at least one dose of a vaccine, 9.7% of the population remain unvaccinated. According to the Health Department, the unvaccinated are 5 times more likely to be hospitalized or die from COVID-19 than individuals who are vaccinated but not boosted. The Health Department created a pilot COVID-19 testing program in 2021. However, Intro 633, authored by Majority Leader Powers, who is here, who will make a statement on his bill, would require the Health Department to make permanent the COVID-19 wastewater testing program that was initially established by Local Law 28 of 2021. There are equity concerns when examining COVID-19 data and the impact of the pandemic on marginalized communities. Available COVID data, forget the 19, I'm just going to call it COVID. We all know what we're talking about. Available COVID data indicate that those living in high poverty areas and or communities of color are more likely to be hospitalized and die from COVID. Water-based epidemiology is based on the phenomenon that any substance that is expelled by humans and is stable in wastewater can be used to calculate the original concentration of the substance, in this case a virus, in a given population. Because viruses do not grow outside of host cells, changes in concentration of viral particles in wastewater can be used to monitor viral outbreaks, can be used to monitor the emergence of new viral strains, and potentially be extrapolated to determine the extent of infection in a given population. In August of 2022, the New York State Department of Health and the City Health Department made an announcement that poliovirus had been detected in New York City wastewater samples and urged local residents who had not been vaccinated against polio to consider doing so. In September 2022, Governor Hochul announced a state of emergency in response to the evidence of community spread of polio after poliovirus was detected in wastewater samples collected from New York City and a host of counties in downstate New York. A permanent monitoring program that tests New York City wastewater for pathogens and viruses of concern may be useful in monitoring public health trends for emerging risks. Moving on to microplastics, we have a bill today from Councilmember Nurse. I was moving on to microplastics. According to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, microplastics are categorized as small pieces of any plastic material under 5 millimeters in length. Scientific analyses indicate that microplastics are ubiquitous in the environment. These substances are found in the atmosphere, in food and water systems, and even as far as both the north and south poles. While the health effects of microplastic exposure in humans are not yet well understood, in 2022, a study analyzing blood samples from 22 anonymous donors found the presence of microplastics in 80% of the individuals tested. I'll just put in as a sidebar that, 22 donors is a very small sample size. And, my concern is not whether the people were anonymous, but whether truly random, as they should be for a scientific study. I really wouldn't regard any small study like this as really hard science, particularly because I don't know what organization performed the study, but there you have it. I make my own little commentary on the statements that are given to me by staff. Microplastic particles reportedly can attach to red blood cells, can accumulate in the placentas of pregnant women, and have been found in the hearts, brains, and organs of rat fetuses. There is no citation in the statement regarding what study resulted in these findings. Again, that's my own comment. In 2017, there was a study by the environmental advocacy group Orb Media on microplastics, but I took the findings of their study out of the statement because I know Orb Media to be an organization of journalists and not a bona fide scientific organization, so I'll not read their findings into the record, but the study, for what it's worth, is there for all to see. Orb Media, you can look it up. Getting back to my train of thought. But I do know that microplastics are a bona fide emerging contaminant worthy of much more study. I remember when I was a deputy commissioner at DEC for 2014 to 2020, we would, we at New York State DEC, as well as the State Health Department, had a fair amount of, concern about that. I wasn't working in that area, but it was, certainly an area of focus for both the DEC and the State Health Department. Intro 633 would require DEP and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. As I indicated, 63 is authored by Councilmember Powers. It would require the DEP and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to permanently establish the COVID-19 wastewater testing program initially established through Local Law 28 of 2021. The bill would also require the Department of the Health Department to publish results on a public-facing website on a weekly basis and submit a report in consultation with DEP to the mayor and the speaker of the council by August 31st of each year. This local law would take effect immediately. Pass. Intro 797, authored by Councilmember Nurse, would require the DEP to add microplastics testing to its standard drinking water testing of street-side drinking water sample testing stations and to post the results online. The bill would also require DEP to promulgate regulations or create standards for testing the city's drinking water for microplastics. That's a big deal. This law would take effect 180 days. Intro 530, authored by the chair, would require DEP to notify relevant community boards and district offices of affected council members 48 hours in advance of any work the agency might do that could lead to discold water or the reduction or loss of water pressure, except in cases of emergency work due to imminent risk to public health and safety, where DEP would be required to inform the relevant community boards and members, that is council members' offices, by email within 5 days of the conclusion of the work. And I'd like to thank the great committee staff who have done such great work over the years. Committee counsel Samara Swanston, she and I go back to the old days, when I was here the first time, and it's great to have her be with us and do all that she does. We have policy analyst Ricky Chawla and Andrew Bourne, known as the new guy, who is very good. Financial analyst Andrew Lane Lawless, and finally my legislative director Nabi Kaur, who is terrific for all their hard work. Let me just recognize the members who are here. So we have Councilmember Holden, who's joining us via Zoom. Councilmember Moya, Councilmember Holden, a member of the committee, joining us by Zoom. Also Councilmember Moya, a member of the committee, joining us by Zoom. Councilmember Hanks, Councilmember Menon, Councilmember Nurse. Is that it for the members who are here? What's that? Oh, Councilmember Gutierrez, I'm sorry, I go by the paper. I'm going by the paper. Figure that I trust the paper more than my vision, you know? Yeah. But that's great, we got a whole team on the field. This is terrific. And so, and before we get to the good panel, grateful to have you here. I want to open this up by statements from members who want to talk about their bills. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Kagan is joining us. A pleasure to have you here, Councilmember Kagan, a valued member of this committee. And you know what? I'll tell you what. Now, what do I do? And so I got the majority leader as a bill, but not a member of the committee. And then I got Councilmember Nurse who has a bill, who is a member of the committee. So what is the protocol here? Okay, and so the majority leader is being very gracious and wants to have Councilmember Nurse recognized, who's going to give us an overview, is going to speak on her bill. For as long as you want, the floor is yours, Councilmember Nurse.
All right, thank you, Chair. I'll be very short. Good afternoon.
Don't worry about it. It's Friday afternoon. I got nothing but time.
It's Friday. I have things to do. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chair Gennaro, for holding this oversight hearing focused on New York City's water and sewage testing infrastructure. Thank you to the New York City Department of Environmental Protection for joining today and for your ongoing work to maintain our water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure. As chair of the Sanitation Committee, I know very well the escalating plastics crisis we're facing in New York City and globally. We have held a hearing focusing on the state of New York City recycling. We've introduced and moved legislation focused on tackling the issue on single-use plastics. We focused on clean streets, litter issues, and its intersection with the cleanliness of our waterways and the functionality of catch basins. And last year, the City Council passed a resolution in support of extended producer responsibility to try to address the excessive production of single-use plastics and more. We do need to urgently tackle the proliferation of plastics in all its forms. That's why today I'm turning to the issue of microplastics in our drinking water. One of the bills we are hearing today is Intro 797 that would require the DEP to test for the presence of microplastics when it collects and analyzes samples of drinking water. Some studies have shown the presence of microplastics in New York City waterways, but it's clear we need additional ongoing and more standardized testing studies to understand the full scale of the issue. Overall, microplastics are ubiquitous in the environment, and it has been found in marine and freshwater habitats, in the atmosphere, in food and water systems, and some studies even found it in our bloodstreams. Currently, DEP conducts continuous sampling and water quality analysis at about 1,000 water quality sampling stations throughout New York City and more across our upstate reservoir watersheds. I would like to understand what it would take to add microplastics to that list and how the city can best coordinate with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the State Department of Health to prioritize this issue. We've already seen California pass legislation and improve requirements and methods for testing microplastics in drinking water sources. So I've read your testimony already, but I look forward to talking a little bit more with you about it. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Nurse. With that, I recognize our Majority Leader, Keith Powers, to speak about his good bill.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here. I'll be brief because it is a Friday, but I want to thank you for...
Nothing but time. Nothing but time.
I'll kick back and I'll do a 10-minute bit. Thank you for letting me speak about my bill today. It's Intro 633 to create a permanent wastewater testing program. I'd like to thank the Chair Gennaro for holding the hearing today, as well as Speaker Adams and my colleagues for the support of this legislation. We're here to talk a bit today a little bit about sewage, which might be engrossing to some, but pretty gross to everyone else. So I'll keep this short. My bill would require the Department of Environmental Protection and Department of Health to create a permanent COVID-19 wastewater testing program. The initial pilot program for this wastewater testing was established by Local Law 28 of 2021, which I introduced alongside my former colleague, Councilmember Costa Constantinidis, your predecessor, and I know a friend of yours as well. And this was obviously an important bill at a really important time. And it required Department of Health to publish the results of wastewater testing on a weekly basis and submit an annual report on the program. We've been using a wastewater testing to detect polio and other pathogens for decades. Throughout the pandemic, the COVID wastewater testing pilot helped us successfully monitor community spread of the virus by people with and without symptoms. Armed with accurate data about community spread, public health experts and city leaders have been able to act quickly to prevent further spread of COVID during spikes in the infection, like the Omicron wave last winter. Cities across the country have implemented this effective and inexpensive tool to keep communities safe, with cities like Boston making their wastewater testing data easily accessible. And I don't think I have to convince any New Yorker that New York should be far ahead of Boston, even in areas including sewage, because their baseball team is trash, by the way. So you're welcome for that. A little Red Sox.
Yeah,
I ad-libbed that one, by the way. The virus is unfortunately still with us and will likely continue to be here alongside the flu every year. Making the test water program permanent will help us stay responsive to outbreaks and prepared for future health emergencies. And as we were sitting here, I noted that as we have outbreaks of other viruses right now, there is discussion about how we're tracking those and how we can do a better job, including wastewater, to track non-COVID related pandemics as well. So with that, I hope to hear testimony today, and we'll hope to pass this legislation soon. I want to thank again Chair Gennaro, my colleagues, and committee staff for hearing H.R. 633 today, and look forward to passing this important legislation. And apologize for my bad puns.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. Now I'll call upon the council committee to swear in the witnesses, and then I'll call upon you to commence your good testimony. I was talking to Keith. How'd that go, the whole swearing thing? It worked out?
Yes.
They all bought in? Okay, good. And so, Camilla has no idea what to make of me. And so, I like to keep my members, happy. So we're hearing testimony from DEP, the Deputy Chief Operating Officer. Is that Kimberly Cipriano or Cipriano? Pardon? Okay. Pleasure to have you before us today, and please proceed with your good testimony.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
If you speak right into
Okay.
the mic, it's best.
A little bit closer. Thanks. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, distinguished council members. It's a pleasure to be here today to speak with you on this important topic. My name is Kim Cipriano. I'm the Deputy Chief Operating Officer at the Department of Environmental Protection, and I've been with the department for just about 12 years now. I'm here today to speak about New York City's robust testing protocols for drinking water and wastewater, as well as the 3 bills being heard today. I'm joined by colleagues from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Maura Kennelly, Deputy Commissioner of External Affairs, and Scott Hughes, Director and Assistant Commissioner of the Public Health Lab. I'm also joined by my DEP colleague, Salome Freud, First Deputy Director for Water Quality in the Bureau of Water Supply, and Jonathan Hoffman, Director of Regulatory Compliance and Innovation in the Bureau of Wastewater Treatment. For more than a century, DEP has been dedicated to protecting public health and the environment by providing high-quality drinking water and managing wastewater and stormwater. Our mission has expanded to include reducing air, noise, and hazardous materials pollution, but our dedication to being a world-class water and wastewater utility has never wavered. DEP provides more than 1 billion gallons of drinking water every day, serving nearly half of the population of the state throughout the city and in neighboring communities upstate. Our nearly 2,000 square mile watershed includes 19 reservoirs and 3 controlled lakes, and is located in portions of the Hudson Valley and Catskill Mountains. We encourage the council to come visit our reservoir system and tour our amazing facilities. The quality and taste of New York City's drinking water is world-renowned. A dedicated team of scientists throughout the watershed and around the city make this possible. Each year, our scientists collect nearly 45,000 samples from the watershed and street-side sampling stations. Those samples are analyzed more than 550,000 times at our 4 water quality laboratories. In addition, our robotic monitoring stations in the reservoirs provide another 2.7 million tests each year. Testing is conducted throughout the distribution system, in the reservoirs, and in the feeder streams and wells that are potential drinking water supply sources. The tests look for a wide variety of microbial, chemical, and physical potential contaminants. Our efforts are cataloged in the annual Drinking Water Supply and Quality Report. DEP has a team of scientists that test our wastewater for 2 primary purposes: process control and regulatory compliance. DEP relies on microorganisms that are naturally present in wastewater to consume organic material as part of the wastewater treatment process. DEP's talented team of operators, scientists, and engineers collect samples and monitor these organisms in the laboratory to ensure that they are in proper balance to optimize the wastewater treatment process. In addition, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation issues DEP state pollutant discharge elimination system permits, which set standards for acceptable levels of solids, fecal coliform and enterococci, nitrogen, and heavy metals in the final wastewater discharge from our 14 wastewater treatment facilities. In an average year, DEP collects 300,000 wastewater samples and runs 500,000 analyses. In addition to this routine testing, beginning in the early days of the pandemic, DEP and the Health Department worked with the Council to establish a pilot program for epidemiological sampling and testing to quantify and sequence COVID-19 RNA in wastewater. As the world began quarantining in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, DEP and the Health Department developed a wastewater surveillance program to supplement clinical testing data and other surveillance data. Together with national experts, including CDC's National Wastewater Surveillance System and academics from CUNY, NYU, Stanford University, the University of Michigan, and leading wastewater utilities from across the country, we stood up a robust and scientifically rigorous program. With such a focused effort, development that would normally take many years was condensed into months, and we are very proud of the staff at the Health Department and DEP that have led this innovative work, some of whom are here with me today. Together with the Council, we completed the pilot wastewater surveillance program outlined in Local Law 28 of 2021, and the DEP and the Health Department submitted a summary report about our findings from that pilot to Council. Despite the fact that the pilot is over, DEP and the Health Department continue to conduct twice-a-week sampling, and results are analyzed by the Health Department. This information is then fed to the New York State Public Dashboard. I will now speak about the 3 bills being heard today. Intro 797 would require extensive testing for microplastics throughout the drinking water distribution system in New York City. We appreciate the Council's focus on this topic, as it is an important and emerging area of focus around the world. While DEP shares the goals of this bill to ensure that New York City's drinking water continues to meet our high standards, we propose a different testing protocol than the one set out in the bill, and we're happy to discuss today. Drinking water standards are set nationally by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency under the provisions of the Safe Drinking Water Act. In addition to adopting the EPA standards, the New York State Department of Health can establish its own standards or expand upon the EPA standards, provided that they are more stringent than the federal standard. For emerging unregulated contaminants, such as microplastics, the New York State Department of Health has established the New York State Drinking Water Quality Council to provide technical review and science-based recommendations for the regulation of new contaminants. At this time, the Drinking Water Quality Council has not developed a recommendation specific to microplastics. DEP, as a permitted water utility, does not have the authority to establish drinking water standards. We serve the community by ensuring that the drinking water we provide meets the standards that public health experts have set. As I discussed earlier, we have a robust testing and quality control system to ensure that we meet these standards. New York State has not established water quality standards related to microplastics, as the science around the potential health impacts of microplastics is still emerging. That being said, in 2023, DEP will begin proactive testing for microplastics as part of our emerging contaminants testing program, which was established to collect occurrence data for new contaminants of concern as soon as analytical methodologies are available. Beginning this spring, DEP will monitor for microplastics in the Kensico and New Croton reservoirs as part of our emerging contaminant monitoring program. We will report on all of our findings on all emerging contaminants, including microplastics, in the Watershed Water Quality Annual Report, which can be found on DEP's website. Based on the available science, we believe that we will collect equally actionable insights into the presence of microplastics in our water supply system through this targeted testing protocol rather than through a broad sampling program as outlined in Intro 797. Moving to Intro 530, which would require DEP to alert relevant community boards and council members in advance of construction or maintenance work that could cause discolored water or reduced water pressure. Planned and emergency water main shutdowns are necessary to maintain our world-class drinking water distribution system. At the same time, we recognize that these disruptions may inconvenience residents and local businesses, and we support Council's intention to ensure timely notifications to residents of potential impacts. Currently, DEP's Community Affairs team routinely sends email notifications for planned DEP water and sewer work to potentially impacted elected officials and community boards. These notifications are sent as soon as the work is scheduled, which is generally in the preceding business day. Notifications for emergency work are made as soon as possible. Much of the work on New York City's water mains is managed by our partners at the New York City Department of Design and Construction. DDC posts notices on relevant buildings and hires community construction liaisons to communicate with local stakeholders, including elected officials and community boards, during long-term work. Barring emergencies, DDC liaisons send out 72-hour notifications and 24-hour confirmation emails prior to any planned water shutdowns. These notices include helpful tips for building managers and homeowners about what to expect and who to call if there are any issues once water is restored. We are always happy to work with DDC and the Council to improve how we communicate with the public, and we look forward to hearing your feedback today. Intro 633 would make the COVID-19 RNA wastewater sampling and testing program permanent and establish reporting requirements. We are proud of the work we have done to establish the testing program, and we support the intention of Intro 633 to continue using cutting-edge science to gather disparate data sources to inform public health decisions, but we are concerned that this bill would limit the city's flexibility to adapt to evolving science and changing public health conditions. It's important to remember that wastewater surveillance data is just one of many data streams that can inform the city's public health professionals about the current state of COVID-19 in our communities. The health department uses this information in conjunction with data from its robust surveillance system, which includes monitoring case reports, syndromic data, and hospital capacity, sequencing specimens to estimate the prevalence of variants of concern, and other data streams to make public health decisions. Because of this, we do not believe that legislating the indefinite continuation of COVID-19 testing specifically allows the flexibility to best use the city's resources. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify today. My colleagues and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. We appreciate you being here. And out of deference for the majority leader's time, very busy fellow who is running around doing all kinds of things, and not a member of this committee, but he feels very strongly about this bill, as do I. So I would like to recognize him to question the panel about Intro 633. I recognize Majority Leader Powers.
Thank you the chair for the time. I'll try to be quick. I appreciate your feedback, but I'm still unclear on what the issues are. So can you, I appreciate you supporting the attention, but obviously if we want to pass the legislation, we want to make sure the agencies can implement it. Can you share with us how you believe, you said it doesn't allow for increased inflexibility. So can you give us more detail about it, what the issues are?
Absolutely, and thank you. And also, for the record, talking about wastewater is so cool, it's not gross. I have a 3-year-old, so we also talk about poop a lot. Yeah. But in terms of the flexibility, so one of the things that we really learned as we've been through the pandemic is that what we originally thought we might be needing to test for and the frequency was not exactly how we ended up doing it over time. We learned, we evolved, and given the current state of the pandemic, we think that our current testing protocols are sufficient, where we are collecting twice weekly from every one of our 14 wastewater treatment plants, collecting that information, doing a viral load testing, as well as RNA sampling for variants. That is a very appropriate testing protocol and analyzation for the current system, the current state of the pandemic that we're in. We're not convinced that 2 years from now or a year from now that will still make a lot of sense, given that the pandemic is constantly evolving and changing. And so while we love this tool and we think wastewater epidemiology is very exciting, both for our agencies to understand It's a little premature, we believe, to say this specific form of testing and this specific protocol will make sense, given that the world has changed so rapidly in the last 3 years.
Sure, and I think on the other side of the equation is that we don't know who's going to be at the DEP, who's going to be the mayor, who's going to be, leading the charge next time there's a real pandemic. And so having a program in place also it works in the other direction as well, which is ensure that we, keep programs in place. There's I was just reading as we were sitting here about what seems like an increased outbreak of the norovirus. And I think we don't have a way to track that right now in the city. So my question is, do we have a way to track that? Are we using wastewater as a testing for that? So as there are other non-COVID related concerns, infectious diseases, are we tracking that at all right now?
So I don't believe we are tracking norovirus currently in wastewater. I'll defer to my colleagues at the health department if that's an appropriate way to understand.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I am not a infectious disease specialist.
Please state your name for the record. Please state your name for the record.
Sure, of course. I'm Maura Kennelly. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for External Affairs at the New York City Health Department. I think, and we're happy to meet with you afterwards with our infectious disease doctors to talk about norovirus further. But one thing I will say in terms of the wastewater testing and specific pathogens is that there are different technical considerations as well as public health considerations for each pathogen that you can test through wastewater. And so I think that also lends itself to just the flexibility that we're speaking to. And I think we're happy to speak with you further about, how to ensure that flexibility in the legislation.
Sure, and I think in this case, we're not doing it, so flexibility means doing it or not doing it, and I think we'd like to see more of it being done. But the other question I had, what are we testing for right now if we're using wastewater?
Sure. So right now in wastewater, we are testing, as I said, for process control. So we're testing for things like the number of microorganisms that are in the wastewater so that we can make sure we have an efficient program. We're also testing for ammonia, fecal coliform, enterococci. So these are all ways that we can evaluate the effectiveness of the wastewater treatment process and making sure that the effluent that we discharge is as clean as it possibly can be.
What are we testing in terms of infectious diseases?
Right now, we're just testing for COVID routinely.
Okay. We're not doing polio or any other diseases?
I'll defer to Scott. He's a little closer to the details.
Hi, my name's Scott Hughes. I'm the Laboratory Director and Assistant Commissioner of the New York City Public Health Lab. We were working with New York State and CDC to continue to perform poliovirus testing.
So polio and COVID-19 would be the answer to that question. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And have you guys considered recently adding anything to that list? And what is the criteria for adding something to that list?
Sure. So we defer to our colleagues at the Department of Health. They identify if there is a public health concern that would necessitate epidemiological testing of wastewater. So, Maura?
Sure. We work closely with the CDC and the New York State in terms of, sort of the effectiveness and value for the testing of wastewater for different pathogens. We also have a very robust primary surveillance system in terms of tracking of all infectious diseases. So I think we're also looking at where there would be added value to using wastewater in addition to the systems we already have in place.
I mean, what are the other systems that are in place?
So they include laboratory test results, things that are, there are a lot of diseases that labs and providers are required to report to the health department. List too long to report, as well as hospital data that we work closely with the New York State to get, and what we call syndromic data, which is really looking at a variety of sources to indicate sort of what's happening in healthcare systems.
I remember years ago there was a program where like pharmacies were reporting what they were prescribing and everything over the counter too. Is that still in place?
I believe we do have a program in place. I don't have those details with me, but I'm happy to follow up and get you more information.
Okay, and I'll just ask one or two more questions. How accurate are wastewater tests so far when you look at let's say COVID-19 as an example with the pilot. I believe you have a pilot program. It expired, but you're still doing testing twice a week. So what is the effectiveness and how accurate have those tests been?
Sure. So right now, we and the health department together believe that we're still getting actionable and helpful scientific data from the wastewater testing program, which is why we are continuing to do it. We don't have an end date, even though the pilot period ended. You know, together with the health department, we evaluate and continue to do things as long as they continue to make sense and they're giving us good data. So I would say it's providing us good data, and I'll defer if there's any other points, but.
I'm happy just to confirm that it is consistent with the clinical testing data that we're seeing. I think, and it is confirming, so it's confirming what we're seeing around the city as part of our other surveillance systems. It does lack the precision that some of our other surveillance systems provide, but again, I think we continue to participate and test, and we think that it's useful information.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to working with you guys on any changes to the bill. Thank you to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader, and to the council, to the committee. If I'm not already added as a sponsor to the bill, I want to sponsor it. I want to co-sponsor it, and it seems to me that, you know, what the Majority Leader is getting at is, you know, for us to, you know, crystallize into law something that, you know, you folks seem to be doing well, but we don't know, you know, how the next administration is going to feel about it, how, you know, when it comes to crunch time in the budget, and I'm inclined to, you know, try to figure out a way where we can, you know, reduce the writing, reduce to writing and put in law something that would mandate at a minimum a process by which there was an ongoing assessment of, you know, epidemiological threats and the extent to which, you know, wastewater testing, you know, could and should be employed, you know, to be a barometer of that threat and to give us some kind of, you know, value added as we go through whatever the next, you know, epidemiologic threat there is. We had polio, COVID now, so, I mean, not my bill, but I think there's a broader vision. I think the Majority Leader made reference to it, that, you know, we should figure out what we ought to be testing for and testing for it. And the good news is that you're doing that, which is great. But, you know, we don't know who's going to be sitting in those chairs 10 years from now and what the circumstances are going. And we've done this for other things. You know, Mayor Bloomberg created the Office of Long-Term Planning and Sustainability. Great idea. We just, you know, chose to put that in law so that would, you know, continue to live on. You know, the New York City Panel on Climate Change, also created by Mayor Bloomberg. It came into existence, went out of existence. We put it back into existence by law. So the, you know, I think the notion is, or the end game here is to, and I don't know why there would, you know, be cause for a lot of pushback on the part of the administration that's already actively, and that's already actively doing this. And so, if this is happening, and, you know, various assessments are made of the need for, you know, wastewater testing, you know, to give us an edge on how we can come to grips with, you know, various outbreaks. I would think it would be something that the that this administration would welcome. It's just a matter of how we figure out how we put it into law so that we don't step on your toes and act like doctors and scientists. But I think there's a way to do it. Would that be, you know, would that be something that you know, resonates with you, Mr. Majority Leader? Is that this is so? You know, any response you have to that would be welcome.
Absolutely, and we're so, that was very loud. Sorry about that. No, absolutely. We are very proud of the program, and we would welcome the opportunity to work with your offices to make sure that legislation does continue the strong partnership that we have with the health department to use this tool and have it as a tool in the toolbox. and just maintains the flexibility so that we can nimbly adapt to changing public health conditions.
Right. I mean, yeah, we don't want to hem you in. We don't want to tell you what to do. We don't want to be overbearing, but we just want to make sure that this is on the books, in a way that makes sense. Not that it couldn't be tweaked, down the road, but we think it's something that should be part of the laws of the city of New York. We just have to figure out the best way to do that. So I'm bullish on this bill for if anybody cares, So
Happy to work with you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader, for authoring this bill, and I'm going to be here all day, so I'm going to save some of my questions. But I know that members are always. Oh, you already asked the questions on your. Right. You made your statement. Okay, so I recognize Councilmember Nurse to ask questions of the panel on her good bill. I recognize Councilmember Nurse.
Thank you, Chair. Just had a few questions more for me to kind of understand logistics, I guess.
Absolutely.
First, so I hear what you said in your testimony, and Anel, who's behind me, when she was researching this bill, had already confirmed we don't have the frameworks. I think for me, the goal is more about just to confirm or refute. Is there an existence of microplastics in our drinking water? So I guess my first question would be, you mentioned you'll be proactively testing at two of the reservoirs. Is there ability for microplastics that you know of to enter the drinking water supply if it doesn't come in through the reservoir?
Sure. So yes, we are planning to do testing starting in the spring. And the reason why we think the right spot is at the Kensico Reservoir. So taking a half step back, the city is supplied by drinking water from a filtered supply, which is in the Croton system. That water goes through the New Croton Reservoir before it gets filtered at the Croton filtration plant and then distributed throughout the city. That's why we're proposing to sample once at the New Croton Reservoir for that separate system. Mm-hmm. And then on the unfiltered supply, this is all of the water that comes from west of Hudson in the Catskills and the Delaware. And that water goes to the Kensico Reservoir. And so we're proposing to also sample at the last point that the water in that system exists, where it could receive runoff or other atmospheric deposition before it enters the real distribution system. So once it enters the distribution system, we don't see any potential opportunities for plastics to enter. So there's, in our mind, no additional information you'd get from sampling multiple places downstream.
Okay. So just in terms of capacity, I know you don't have right now a methodology to do comparisons. Mm-hmm. With in-house. Is it still, do you have the capability to take samples and just fully confirm there aren't the presence of I don't know because I'm not a scientist, but in my mind I'm like, you take it and you put it under the thing and you can look. I'm sorry, but then, I don't know if it's that simple, but just in terms of what you have in-house, do you have that type of capability just to look at what, if we turn on a tap, could we see if we have anything or not?
Sure. So right now the methodology is still evolving. And so when we, a few years back, we had actually worked with a contract lab to help develop the methodology for how you might collect the sample and then analyze it in the laboratory to identify microplastics. At that time, 5 years ago, when we were part of that study, they did not identify any microplastics in the New York City drinking water system. Now, 5 years later, the methodology has been developed. And so what we would do is we would collect a sample from both of these locations, we would package it and send it to a contract lab. Okay. The contract lab would then run the analysis. Okay. Because it is one of these more evolving kind of methodologies. We do, all of our sampling, we do 99% of our sampling analyses in-house with Sally's excellent team. Mm-hmm. They are the scientists. So they do, most of our sampling is done in-house, but for these more kind of nuanced and unique samples, we would send it to a contract lab.
Okay. apologies for simplifying something. I'm sure, I know it's very complex, but I have no idea what it is. I have a question in terms of what are the conversations you are having with the appropriate New York State agencies on this to develop something at the state level for the city to be able to have a method for doing this kind of ongoing analysis?
So the method has been established, that like the testing protocol for how you would identify if the presence of microplastics in the water. So that is one step that's done in the process. But now the next step is to start to collect data so that we have a baseline understanding of what the prevalence and presence of microplastics may be. Once you have that data, we would work with our partners in New York State Department of Health to understand what the limits may be. So the way that it ends up working is that New York State would promulgate like a maximum contaminant level or some other kind of threshold to establish what a statewide standard would be. And then all regulated utilities, of which New York City is one, would then have to demonstrate that they meet or exceed that standard.
Right.
So
And you're saying that's something that's in motion already?
right now the state we're adding it to the emerging contaminant list,
Right.
basically. So basically the state is saying, start watching this, start collecting data so that we have a more informed science and we can start to figure out what the right way to kind of evaluate and regulate this is in the future. This is exactly the same thing that kind of happened with PFAS in the past. So it's a process that we're pretty familiar with.
Last question.
Councilmember, I'm not worrying about the clock when it comes to you, because I am a member of your committee as well, so I have to be,
Right.
I have to be nice to you.
Courtesy is
So
always
you can,
reciprocal.
so, yeah, so chair to chair, like you can forget about the
Well, I
clock.
did just have one little
Okay.
question.
And I don't expect the same treatment from your committee.
I
don't
always
think
let-
I'm worthy.
I
you
always
know,
let
but
the members
so-
go.
So have at 'em, yeah.
Yeah, and this was, I don't actually know if this was I don't think this is my question, but I'm still interested in the answer. Some reservoirs use shade balls, the small dark plastic, you know what they are. Does DEP use these on any of its reservoirs or at any point in the distribution infrastructure? And could those use potentially introduce microplastics into drinking water?
Absolutely. So the first time I heard about this, I thought about like a ball pit being emptied into a reservoir, which was very entertaining for my children.
No, the videos are fascinating.
So we have evaluated this technology, and actually we evaluated it for some of the reasons that you mentioned, but also because we are under other regulations. And so we're always at the forefront of thinking about what are the cool new technologies that we might be able to avoid giant billion-dollar capital projects, if these are something that can help us meet our water quality goals. For a lot of reasons, we evaluated and determined that shade balls and other similar technology is not conducive to kind of our operations.
Okay.
So we don't use them, and we have no intention at the moment to be using them in the water supply system.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Nurse, and thank you for bringing forward this good bill. Okay. I recognize Councilmember Menon for questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Chair. I just had two quick questions. So last December, DEP and DOHMH said in a news article that wastewater-based epidemiology was, quote unquote, a developing field. Can you talk a little bit about why that's so, and in your opinion, what's missing? What would make it more comprehensive?
Sure. So thanks for that question. We didn't use wastewater epidemiological sampling as part of our normal protocol. So we're very familiar for the longest time with testing wastewater for a whole bunch of pathogens, but really mostly focused on regulatory compliance and on process control. And so it was new, and it is new in the way of thinking about how it might help inform a public health conversation. And honestly, I think it's just, as we're all learning about these emerging viruses, we're developing new protocols and new procedures to make sure that we're collecting data in the most actionable way. And so that, we collect in a certain parameters so that we understand better what's going on in the public health system. So it's not that there's something that we're not doing that we want to do, but that we are constantly evolving.
And how many staffers are involved in testing wastewater for viruses?
I'm sorry, I don't have that number offhand, but it's a number of staff, both at the treatment plants who are collecting the samples, and then they bring it to our microbiology lab. So then there's some laboratory staff, and then we have our engineering team who would look at it as well. So it's multiple layers of staff because it is really a multidisciplinary kind of analysis and review.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Menon, for your questions. I'm going to jump into some of my own questions now. I remember when I was at DEC, we were dealing with the emergence of PFAS, PFOA, PFAS, and that family of compounds. Since then, the state health department set drinking water standards for PFOA and PFAS, which are at parts per trillion. It's hard to imagine how any water system like Nassau and Suffolk is going to like wrap their testing apparatus around that. But of course, my focus is in New York City drinking water supply. And can you give me a status of the extent to which that family of compounds, PFAS, PFOA, PFAS, are extant in New York City drinking water, and where we are now with regard to compliance with the state standard?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to just say is that we are fully in compliant with all New York State standards on PFAS and PFOAs. We've been monitoring for these compounds in our water supply system since 2009, and we originally started as part of the Emerging Contaminant Program. As different regulations and research have evolved, we've continued to monitor and refine our monitoring strategy, both in our source waters and our distribution system. We have not detected PFAS in the unfiltered system, and we sample for that when it enters the Croton Reservoir. And in the filtered Croton system, extremely low levels have been detected, but far below the state maximum contaminant limits.
But the standard is parts per trillion.
And we're far below that.
And we're far below that.
An order of magnitude, actually.
Wow. Okay. Now, this is not something I was working on when I was at DEC. It was just like a thing that I knew what was going on. And is this more of a groundwater phenomenon than it is like a surface water phenomenon? It seems like the difference between us and Long Island, which is a groundwater system. They're going out of their minds with PFAS and PFOA, and we apparently are not. Is it just, what is it about the nature of our water supply system that has created an outcome where we don't have a lot of PFAS, PFOA, PFAS?
Absolutely. So I do believe that part of the reason is because of the incredible protection that we have for our water supply system. So we take so much care in making sure that our 2,000 square mile watershed is well protected, that there are not opportunities for contaminants to enter the water supply system. And so I would argue that because we've done so much work to develop the filtration avoidance determination and build up the communities in the watershed to make sure that we're managing point source impacts, we are not we're not in the same condition that other water purveyors may be.
Thank you. And with regard to microplastics, as I said in my opening statement, they range in size from like 5 millimeters all the way down to God knows what, right? And let's just say microplastics became like a big thing, and we had to do something. And let's just say the microplastics that were of most concern happened to be like the smallest or whatever. And I mean, I go back on this issue to the early 90s when I was staff here, when it was before we signed the 1997 FAD, the first one. In which we were given the opportunity to avoid filtration. Now, would filtration processes as we know them now be sufficient to filter out the smallest of the small particles that you might have in with you know, microplastics, or would we have to develop like a new technology that would suffice to get that? I mean, this must be going through somebody's mind about what do we do if we really have to do this?
So on the filtered water supply, in New York City, we have a Croton filtration plant that is responsible for filtering up to 290 million gallons of water per day.
Yeah, Croton we're talking about. Yeah,
Yes,
Croton.
for
of
the
course.
Croton
Yeah,
system.
that was, yeah,
So for that system, all that water does get filtered through that facility, and it was not designed specifically to evaluate microplastic removal, but as the science is evolving, that's definitely something that we're evaluating with the scientific community, and understanding what technologies may need to be add-on processes or otherwise evaluated to support the removal if it is determined in some point in the future that that's needed. I think we are a little far away right now from understanding both the prevalence and the quantity of microplastics in the water supply. Also, a little bit far away right now from where how much we might not have to remove. So a lot of that will depend once those kind of predecessor facts are determined. How much is there? What are the standards? Then we would seek to identify the engineering solutions to remove the plastics if they
Right.
so existed.
Can you give me a little insight on what is going on in the world of, you know, looking very closely at the risks that microplastics may pose? This has got to be the subject of a lot of people in the water community. Like, you know, presumably there are conferences on this. Can you, you know, who's doing like the cutting edge research on this, and just where is all this, to use poor grammar, like where is all this at?
So the conversation right now is really in the public health sphere, and really determining what are the public health implications of microplastics in the drinking water
Well,
supply.
why don't we ask the folks from health, well, like what they're hearing about this?
So thank you. I will say neither Scott nor I are the experts here from the health department.
You look pretty expert to me. You look pretty expert.
But
Your testimony here is considered expert testimony.
great, lovely. But I think similar to what Kim mentioned in terms of our colleagues at the state health department, we are just, you know, we're following the research. It is emerging, and I think it's still a very young sort of body of research, if you will, in terms of the implications specifically on human health.
Right. And this would be more in the domain of the state health department that would be doing this, because they're the ones that kind of give you folks your, you know, marching orders, you know, pursuant to the FAD and all that, right?
Correct. Yes. Our colleagues at the state health department have jurisdiction here. Not to say that we aren't following the research, but they're the experts.
I figured you would be, you know. And I know that the Suffolk County Water Authority does like a pretty good job of trying to get out ahead of things, because they've got a lot of problems out there, and you know, I've been out there many times, and they're sort of like a mini DEP. They really, I mean, I guess the Suffolk County Water Authority covers about half the county or something like that, I'm just wondering if you've heard whether they're doing a lot of stuff on the ground there, because they have a lot of, I mean, certainly they're in the same position you are, that they have to follow the state's lead, but it seems that they're, you know, because they're right in the middle of it, and they got this, you know, war that they're waging. Are they doing any of their own research? I'm asking you to talk about like what's going on with some other agency, but they always seem to me to be quite impressive. I've been out there a number of times, and when I'm out there, I feel like I'm at a smaller version, as I said, of DEP.
Absolutely, we do collaborate closely with our partners on Long Island, and I was out there maybe last year, meeting with them on a different topic, where we were strategizing about how we might both tackle an entirely different kind of water supply issue. So I'm not familiar with their efforts on microplastics. They do have to filter their water because they are providing groundwater, so it's a little bit of a different system, but I would be more than happy to reach out to them and find out if they're doing any exciting research or...
Yeah, is it still Zabo? Is he still the guy out there? Is he still...
on the
Jeff
record,
Zabo?
I do not know.
Yeah, I think he was the... let me see what other questions
Chair, could I ask a follow-up question?
Oh, sure. I recognize Councilmember Nurse for a follow-up.
Thank you. One of the things that you said kind of just struck me a little bit, not in a bad way, just more curiosity around actually what Councilmember Gennaro mentioned around the filter that would then be needed. In your engineering department, are there any ongoing conversations or existing conversations around types of filters out there? Does a filter exist? I'm very ignorant to this subject. Does a filter exist that can filter out microplastics, and are you all talking about it or looking at it at all within your engineering department?
Sure. So it sort of depends on like how small of a microplastic we're talking about. A 5 millimeter microplastic is visible to the naked eye, would get caught in our existing filtering system. We use granular activated carbon. That's a mouthful. So it would get caught up in that system. If it is, if we're talking about the nanomillimeters, it really, I don't know if the technology even exists yet. But we, as part of our research agenda, we participate in a number of national organizations that are looking at these types of questions, and we participate in more than 10 ongoing studies at any given time about other kinds of things that might be happening in the water supply, and I'm sure that if we aren't already, it will be something that comes up as the utilities are starting to think about this emerging contaminant.
And so just for the record, there's never been a time where within house at DEP you've ever looked at or sent out a sample of water to just even see any type of microplastic particle.
In 2018, we sent out a sample as part of the methodology development process, and
negative.
It came back non-detect. Okay. And we are planning in the spring, so like in 2 months, I believe, we'll be sending out the next, and we're happy to share with you that initial.
I know you mentioned that. I just blinked on it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Nurse. Let's talk a little bit about 530, about the DEP notification, which that's the notification bill that I advanced. And yes, we do get calls in my office. We do get notifications, but they're, sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. And so notwithstanding the fact that this was a phenomenon and a practice that the city engages in, we just thought it would be a good idea to crystallize it. And in your testimony, you spoke about it, but so like who specifically does DEP notify and via what outreach methods? You made a little reference to that, but if you could, expand upon that, that'd be great.
Absolutely, I'd be more than happy to. So our community affairs group has a borough liaison for each borough, and those borough liaisons have a listserv of members in the community boards and also in each of the council members' offices, as well as state assembly members, state senators. And so when we identify a particularly affected community, so for example, our Bureau of Water and Sewer Operations is planning to do work on a 20-inch transmission line. We know that when we do that type of work, it often causes discolored water because it is a large piece of infrastructure that we infrequently take down. So we would work with them to develop a map of what the possible areas that might be impacted are, and then that map would get shared with community affairs. They'd identify all of the local elected officials that would be affected, and then we would make notifications via email to those people. We also, water being discolored is a very disconcerting thing to a constituent, and we share your concerns of making sure people are well informed. And so just last maybe 2 weeks ago, we had one of these water main shutdowns where we expected to have discolored water. And we posted on social media a map so that people would be aware of, if you live in this zone, you might experience discolored water. Run your water for a few minutes. If it still is discolored, call 311. So we look forward to working with your office to identify if there's anyone we should additionally be notifying, and trying out new ways of notifying the public.
Yes, but as per your own testimony, as per your own statement, you indicated that notification is made the preceding business day, which doesn't give my office a lot of time to reach out to, because we know who to talk to. So we have all the civic associations, and they all have a list of their members that once we give it to them, they can share it with their members, their various congregations, and every council member knows whom to talk to and her or his district. And the day before just doesn't provide us with much. It would be more effective if it was more in advance. Is there any way to, and the work that's going to be done, it's either going to be DEP or I guess DDC doing it. I think that DDC does most of your work, right? Does DEP do any of its own work anymore, or is it all?
Absolutely. So I think it really does depend on what the condition is that we're responding to. That really is the precipitating kind of factor for how much notification we can give. So DDC gives 3 days notice because they are doing long-term planned capital projects. They have a very routine kind of understanding of how long a job is going to take, when they plan to be on this block versus that block. And so they can, with a lot of precision, identify exactly when there's planned to be a shutdown and a little bit farther in advance. The kind of work that DEP responds to is of the more emergent kind of variety. So we're responding to street leaks. So something that's not a water main break yet, but could be a water main break very soon, we're responding to. It's not so emerging that we have to shut down water this minute, but we wouldn't want it to linger for 2 or 3 days, because the longer you let a leak linger, the more likely it is to have a catastrophic failure.
Right.
So, that's why we generally end up only knowing the day before, because we are constantly monitoring leaks, monitoring our activities, and trying to do work as quickly as we can. So we also wouldn't want to not do work quickly because we're like, oh, we have to wait 3 days. The other thing I would say too is that there's a whole other body of work that is for shutdowns, and that's plumber-initiated shutdowns. So, for example, you're having the water service to your property replaced. For some reason, your plumber needs a shutdown to install a new tap. We would want to keep the street open for a shorter period of time. And so the plumber would finish their work. That afternoon, they'd call and they'd ask us for a shutdown the next day. And in order to minimize the costs to property owners, because the plumber will charge you more if you have to leave the street open longer because he has more liability, we seek to do shutoffs the next day if possible. So for those reasons, it depends really on the type of work. DDC work, which is a majority of the discolored the majority of where there could be discolored water, we are endeavoring for that 3-day notification.
I still haven't given up on this. I still think there's more refining that we can do to move that forward, but we will see. Let me go through your. We have I have a question right here. We have Councilmember Holden, who is participating remotely. The council has interesting rules, and if there's not a quorum of members and someone who is remote can't ask a question through the thing, it's don't get me started. But I don't make the rules. I just work here. But he's a great colleague, he's a great member of the committee. He sits right next to me in the chambers, and here's his question. If I can read it, that's a little note to staff. If you're writing something out for someone who's over 65, use big letters here. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna let Ricky, just pose the question. Just read it. Just pose the question. and it'll be like it came from me. But it's really from Bob Holden, so figure that out. It's all,
Wastewater testing is already being
yeah, just
used.
nice and loud right into the microphone.
Wastewater testing is already being used in other U.S. cities to monitor drug use. This approach is already being applied in Australia and Europe to understand drug consumption patterns. Is DEP planning to use wastewater testing on drugs like fentanyl?
I'll defer to my colleagues at the Health Department for that question.
And we will get back to Councilmember Holden. I don't have that information with me today, but we're happy to follow up both with Holden and with the rest of the committee.
Sure, if you just, make a note that that's for Councilmember Holden, and also that should be forwarded to the council of our committee, Samara Swanson, just because I'd like to know as well.
Happy to.
Sure. And let me go through the statement here. I made little marks. And part of your statement on page 3 is about how, the third paragraph, how New York State has not established water quality standards relating to microplastics, but, DEP will, begin the proactive testing for microplastics. And do you know of any entity that has set standards for microplastics? I stepped out, I might have missed it when Councilmember Nurse was talking about, because I know that, California did something. I don't know if they set standards or whatever. So has anyone that you know of actually set standards for microplastics anywhere in the...
Not at this time, and California is evaluating standards, but they have not set.
Okay, so they're doing something with a view towards setting standards. Europe, anybody doing anything in Europe? Sometimes they're like ahead of us, when it comes to, GMO foods and all this other,
Not that we're aware.
Okay. Good to know. Let's see what other notes I made in your statement. Let's see the questions here. I don't want to ask anything that's already been asked. I think that's okay. I'm gonna do something that only a chair can get away with and just go like a little bit off topic and give myself a little latitude. So, you're walking into something you didn't know you were gonna have to be dealing with. With regard to the FAD, I was around for the 1997 FAD, which was for 5 years, and in 2002, it was another 5 years in 2007. And then in 2007, I think the EPA kind of like renounced, primacy, and then they gave it to state DOH from 2007 to 17. And it's my understanding that we've just, just completed another FAD. Is that where we're at? Can you speak on that?
Absolutely. So we just completed the first 5 years of our 10-year FAD. So.
Oh, okay. So in 2017, there was a 5-year FAD to 2022, and so it was a 10-year FAD from 2017 to 2027.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just finished the first 5 years of it, which would be. So that would have led you into what we call like a mid-course review, right?
Correct.
Did that happen? That's
it did.
done?
It did, and we submitted a report to the state and EPA on the progress that we've made on the FAD and the work that we would be continuing to do over the next 5 years.
Okay, it's my understanding, again, I haven't delved too deeply into this. I meant to, but it didn't happen. They were just like other topics. That when it comes to the land acquisition component of the FAD, there were targets or milestones regarding land acquisition in the first 5 years of this 10-year FAD that were not realized. Is that the case?
I'm sorry, I don't have that information at my fingertips.
Okay. I mean, if you have it, you have it. You weren't expecting to talk about this now. But if somebody has something on that, because I'm a big booster of the Land Act program, which has been phenomenally successful, notwithstanding its willing buyer, willing seller, and not like it was back in the old days of eminent domain way back. But if we could get data sent to the committee on the status of the land acquisition program, because if the state DOH, which kind of like has the keys to the FAD, so to speak, right? And so if they mandate it and then we kind of don't do it, they can either like let it go or talk to you folks about it or indicate that in the second half of the FAD they want to see that move apace or whatever. But whatever you can give us in terms of information on the land acquisition component of the 2017 to 2027 FAD, we'd be interested in. And again, I'm kind of invested in this because I think I'm the only person still around that goes back to the 1997 MOA and all that, and all the yelling and screaming that kind of like led up to that. It was before everyone's time here, but there was a lot of yelling and screaming, to try to get that, and just to get us the filtration avoidance determination. That was it was very hard to get done, and so I go back with this a long time, and that was back when Al Appleton or something was commissioner, like God knows, so anything that you could furnish the committee, regarding like the status of the Land Act, and also you issued some report, whatever it is, right? There was some, so if you could send that to Samara Swanston, this will be a focus of mine going forward, and this will give me like a little bit of a jump start on that.
Absolutely, we'd be happy to share.
Thank you. This has been a delightful panel. What do you think, Samara? Has it been good? Okay. All right. Okay. So we didn't have any cookies or any treats or any tea or anything, but it was. Do you have at least a pitcher of water there? Or you had to bring your own.
We do. We have a nice pitcher. We got some reusable bottles.
Okay. Good. The champagne of drinking water.
Skills.
So thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it. I'm going to take a 2-minute recess, and then we'll commence with the public testimony. I assume that we have public testimony to hear. What's that? So we have no public testimony. Like that's it? Like we're done? Okay. I was ready for a whole thing, I was ready for the whole thing. And so let's see if my tea, my tea's done, forget about it. So thank you all very much for participating in this good hearing. We appreciate the benefit of your views. Look forward to working cooperatively with you to see what we can do about the bills that were brought forth today. And have a great weekend. This hearing is hereby adjourned.